Thanks for checking out witchhouserocks.com. In this final interview, Daniel Siwek, a music journalist who's written for Music Connection magazine, LA Weekly, and Goldmine, will be interviewing me. And we'll be talking about how all this came about. So check it out.
We're here with Mike Dalager, Mr. Dreams in the Witch House. No, obviously, you know, this is kind of your baby, right?
When you live a good life and you meet amazing, talented people, you tuck them away in your memory bank, and some of them you continue long-term relationships with, and all of a sudden, everything sort of just shifted and drifted together, and we brought Sweden and the United States together. Mm-hmm. And basically, I guess you could say, the link would be just my involvement in knowing both worlds.
Well, you know, obviously you and H.P. Lovecraft go way back.
Not as far back as you would think that would be required to
maybe not to the 30s, but
not at all
when the story came out.
Yeah.
But you are talk about just a minute about the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society.
Yeah, exactly. And my history with the society was meeting Sean Branney and Andrew Lehman. They were making a silent movie of The Call of Cthulhu.
Right.
So that's where I met them, and now I work for them as a shipping and receiving and content creation guy. So this is a big whopper, 18 months of work, and yeah, it's coming out soon.
Talk to me a little bit about the adaptation, because obviously it's you know, would you say it's one of Lovecraft's bigger or lesser known stories?
I think because it has such a strong title, it is recognizable, but in terms of fans, I'm not sure if it's high on the list of, oh, you've got to read that one. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, I just completely responded to it. And
but it is, you know, an original short story, whatever that he had in Weird Tales?
Yeah, it was published in 1933 in Weird Tales magazine. Yeah. And he was rejected by the magazine on several occasions as well. Got it. What's unique about the story was the fact that, okay, finally Lovecraft embraces the Judeo-Christian structure and implements or fuses it into his cosmic horror. And he doesn't do that anywhere else as far as I'm aware, except for Dreams in the Witch House. There's a long backstory to why I picked this up and read it on a flight to Sweden when I was going to go meet my songwriting co-partner and, you know, crazy ideas, Chris Laney. I read Dreams in the Witch House on that flight, and that was when I started to formulate a theatric presentation. Normally when I read a story, I create a movie. Right. This one, I created a stage version. Wow. And then like midway through the story, there's references to sound all over the place. Right. And sounds that cannot be described. And I thought, well, what better way to do that than with heavy metal and hard rock? Totally. You know, because a lot of that material is beyond description. It's a feeling.
I really love this idea, though, of bringing it, you know, especially when you talk about Sweden and Scandinavia. That's such a a mecca of dark horror metal, you know. Yeah. So taking it away from, you know, the screen and bringing it into the sonic element and our imagination. Yeah. Which so much of Lovecraft and reading it is really about what we think we're reading, right? Right. And where our imagination, I mean, obviously that's reading in general, but our imagination, especially, you know, we're getting scared by our own imagination. And isn't that so Lovecraftian in a way also, right? What
the goal was with this project, with Chris and with the other writers involved, Anders Ringman and Lennart Östlund, and then also Sean Branney and Andrew Lehman provided the book. There's a lot of dialogue, which splices the songs together. What we wanted to do, and what I was trying to drive forward, was we have to make a visual experience through sound. Right. And you know, the size and tone of hard rock and metal is an epic visual sound. But of course, you can't just hammer people with that from start to finish. So we built peaks and valleys into the story so that people could relax, recover, and get ready for the next big
that's very
showdown.
cinematic also, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
and-
that rubber band effect. You got to
Totally.
tension, release, tension, release, tension, release, and then tension, then bing.
And
you know,
even the concept of having a gatefold album, you know,
Right.
which is, you know, so retro and cool,
Yeah.
you know, but they're coming back, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, for a lot of kids growing up in the era of the album, that was the portal to the world of that band, you know.
Yeah.
You know, we were with Bruce Kulick here, and you know, growing up as a Kiss fan, you opened up Alive. You opened up Alive too. You saw the stage. You saw the, you know, you saw the presentation. You didn't have YouTube now, but forget about MTV or YouTube. You didn't even have MTV then,
Right.
You know, when these albums came out. So it was either seeing them in a magazine or this gatefold, and you know, I really love the idea of taking us into this kind of this rock opera.
Right.
Where, you know, where just like back in the day when you saw a movie that you liked or a musical that you liked, you could sit at home and put it on and open up the gatefold and then just get carried away into this thing.
Right. Yeah, and you're talking about gatefold albums or just progressive rock albums from back in the day, and a lot of what the first experience was, unless you heard a track on the radio, was you would go to the record shop and you would see this amazing album cover.
Right, by Roger Dean or like one
Yeah,
of those.
I mean, you would have a visual experience right from the get-go. I remember when Alan Parsons' project first came out, and I heard a song on the radio, "Eye in the Sky," and then I went to Tower Records and I saw the record cover, and it was basically this Egyptian eye. It kind of freaked me out because, you know, I was 12 years old and I thought, what is this all about? And I actually thought there was an eye in the sky watching me wherever I went.
That's awesome.
You know, so that song planted that seed in my mind, and to this day, it's like I have a reaction towards that. But now, you know, being an older individual, it's more about it's a philosophical reaction as opposed to a reaction based on fear.
What about, you know, now your project is now part of the canon of you know, of Lovecraft Metal, and you know, which is a long history of it, you know.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, there was a band called H.P. Lovecraft, a psych rock band from
I bought their
68,
CD, I listened to it all,
you know, Blue Oyster Cult. I was listening to some of the stuff, reminds me of an album they do called Imaginos, which is way Lovecraft and also has some narration on it, and like, you know, very, you know, a concept album like that. But you know, Metallica, you know, Maiden, and a slew of those Scandinavian bands. So can you talk about just being part of that world now, making that connection?
Yeah, well, what's interesting is that world was 1980s, correct? But it never died in Scandinavia.
Right.
They like continued to live it, they continued to develop it, and it continuously embraces the past, as well as advancing the art form. And when I was speaking with our other guest guitarist, Douglas Blair Lusick of Wasp, he was actually saying, you know what, I almost like Bruce was saying earlier, there's something about Norway and Sweden and Finland that is just so inviting as a rock artist, rock star from the 80s. You go there and there's a reverence and there's a love and there's a respect. These countries, they never gave up on hard rock and heavy metal.
Right.
It's in their blood now. And I don't know if that's because of the pagan history or the epicness of their own Viking heritage, but you know, it really feels like what happened here on such a large scale in 1980 continues to live over there. So to bring this idea to Swedes and to say, you know, hey Anders, hey Chris, hey Lennart, let's make a rock opera. What I presented to them had nothing to do with the structures that man has created here, you know, at present or in the past. It's about this amazing new world that was made, crafted, probably in Lovecraft's dreams, and written on the page. And now we're going to transfer that into a sonic, like full-on experience, fusing theater and metal and cosmic horror. And you know, the result, we're all pleased with it, and we just hope that that translates to our listeners.
You know, you're a humble guy, so you're not going to say it, but you're also in this project. You're like a little ghost
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so we should give you props for that. But also, what was it like working with Elaine and obviously guest star Bruce on the shredding guitar?
Yeah, well, I mean,
not just the shredding guitar, the tasty guitar.
Yeah. Right. What I will say now is, at this point, I mean, I feel like we're a witch house family in a sense. You know, it's very difficult to mount something like this and to actually execute and to make it happen. And now we're right on the cusp of having physical product. And all along the way, everyone was so like, yeah, let's do it, let's go for it. You know, send me a track, man, that sounds awesome. I want to be a part of that. So when it, you know, came to Bruce or Elaine or Douglas or Jody Ashworth, our voice of the Crawling Chaos, who has inhuman low frequency when he sings. You heard it.
Totally rumbling.
You know, there's no effects on that at all. That's his voice. Everyone was way into it, and you know that makes the job of producing this thing, you know, not as much of a nightmare.
Yeah, and so I guess lastly, while I love the idea of you know this world existing on a double LP, right?
Yeah.
You know, talking to Elaine about it, and even Bruce, they would love to be able to take this thing to the stage.
Yeah.
How do you see? You know, you see that happening? Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, I have like 20 cents in my pocket right now, so if that happens, it's beyond my capabilities and beyond you know my partner's capabilities. But the dream is definitely there. I mean, we don't go this far to create a visual experience through sound and not, you know, have the thought pop up in our minds, especially when we listen to it and start, you know, you create your own world, I create my world. I would love to plug into your head and see what pictures you create.
Right.
So the idea of someone to come along and say, we want to make this and put it on stage or put it on film, you know, for a wider audience to see, that'd be a dream come true.